All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise, glory, and honor be to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakaha Kwadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect, the tabernacle of David. I am your brother Matazatbath, all right, residing from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Melbourne, Australia. And I wanted to do a quick lesson through the spirit and the power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai pertaining to uh, the Syrophoenician woman in Matthew the 15th chapter. Now, as you can see here on the screen, what sparked me to do this lesson was through this comment that this individual who goes by the YouTube handle name Marquise Long, all right, and this was posted about a day ago off my video. Christian man asks, where in the scriptures does it say only Black Hebrew Israelites can make it through the enter into the 12 gates, right? Now, Marquise, this individual, posted this comment, all right, and we're going to have a read. We're going to get some precepts, and then we're going to close out. So he responded by saying, I always say, look at the conversation, and I'm going to read this verbatim, that Jesus had between the Canaanite woman and the Samaritan woman at the well, both who would be considered Gentiles. With the Canaanite woman, he compared her to a dog, right? So I can turn my mic down a little bit, and wanted to push her away despite having great faith and gave her a little blessing, yet didn't offer her anything everlasting. And the other at the well, he spoke with her first, offered her a drink and something of everlasting if she came to the Father. And there's one particular thing she said pertaining to the well that determines why Jesus talked to them totally different. All right. Now, before I move on, I want to just quickly qualify something. The name is not Jesus. All right. And we don't use that name. All right. The name is Yahweh Shai Hamashiach. All right. Jesus, Salakia, when you actually study the history of the name and you go into the etymology of it, especially the Latin, it actually means earth pig. All right. And there's been many lessons that the brethren have done upon it. All right. And if you want that lesson, just pop a comment in the comment section. And Lord's will, if the spirit permits me and I have the time, I'll go into it and break it down. But nevertheless, so I responded and I said, well, the difference between the two women was the Syrophoenician woman was an Israelite and the Samaritan woman at the well was an actual heathen woman. That's why he spoke to them both differently. If we remember, Yahweh Shah only came for the nation of Israel, so it only made sense why he gave the Syrophoenician woman a blessing at the end, because she was indeed an Israelite, and the Samaritan woman, he didn't deal with her in that manner, is what I meant to say. And then somebody else responded underneath my comment. They said he only gave the Canaanite woman a blessing because she admitted she was a dog. And then he posted the precept Mark 7, which we're also going to go into within this lesson. Plus, her daughter was blessed, not her. So there seems to be some little bit of confusion when it comes to the whole situation, why Yahweh Shai ended up blessing the Syrophoenician woman's daughter. And so that's what we're going to explore here in this lesson. And I pray that it is edifying. So what I want to do is I want to come over here to Matthew, the 15th chapter. All right. And we're going to start at the top where it says the Syrophoenician woman. All right. Now, what I'm going to do, because this lesson is strictly based off the topic going into the Syrophoenician woman, although in his statement, he also mentioned the Samaritan woman. I don't want to confuse the two. So for that reason alone, in another lesson, I will cover the Samaritan woman. So only in this lesson, we're going to deal with the Syrophoenician woman. Okay. So Matthew, the 15th chapter, and we're going to start here at the 21st verse. And it reads, then Yahweh Shai went thence and departed into the coasts of Tyre and Zidon. Right now, it's always good to get into the habit, as the beloved elder Apostle Tahar always says, learn how to look up your maps. Right. So if you look up Tyre, oops, let me take my caps off So if we look up Tyre and Zidon, and you type in ancient map, okay. Let me see, which would be a good one. Yep, this will be a good one here. All right. Now, as you can see, this is would be considered in the land of Palestine today. All right, Phoenicia. All right, and then you have Syria. All right, and then you see here off the coast you have Sidon and Tyre. All right, that's where it was located. Okay, now when we go back, let's come back over here, Salakia. All right, and let's read this. It says, verse 22, Matthew 15 and 22, and behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, have mercy on me, O master, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with a devil. Now, in Matthew the 15th chapter, although the title mentioned here says Syrophoenician, it calls her on one aspect a woman of Canaan, because based upon where she resided. All right, because remember, before the land was called Israel, originally it was called the land of Canaan. Okay, doesn't mean that she was an actual Canaanite. All right, it just called her a woman of Canaan based off where she presided. All right, so you have to really understand what that's going into. Verse 23, but he answered her not a word, and his disciples came and besought him, saying, send her away, for she crieth after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And this is key. All right, which we're going to get into it a little bit later. It says, then came she and worshiped him, saying, master, help me. But he answered and said, it is not meet to take the children's bread and cast or selak it, and to cast it to dogs. And she said, truth, master, yet the dogs eat of the crumbs which fall from their master's table. Then Yahushua answered and said unto her, O woman, great is thy faith, be it unto thee even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour. All right. Now, what Christians like to do is they'll take this out of context and think that the Syrophoenician woman indeed was a heathen woman, and this is proof that Gentiles, which they deem to be the other nations, can pertain to salvation if they just have faith and believe on the blood. All right. But see, we're going to show you that she was an actual Israelite. Now, before we do that, let's establish, all right, who Yahushua came to. All right, because it's very important and it's very key that once you know who the Messiah actually came for, it will only make sense as to why he decided to help her daughter. Okay, now let's go to Matthew, the first chapter. All right, and this is verse 21. All right, Matthew 1 and 21, and it reads, it says, and she, meaning Mary, Yahushua's mother, shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Yahushua, for he shall save his people from their sins. And that was, when you understand the volume of the book, all right, this is why the scripture says he comes through the volume of the book to do the will of the Heavenly Father. Okay. Now you have to establish and ask yourself, okay, well, who's considered his people? Well, when you go back to the Old Testament, let's get Jeremiah, the what's that, the 23rd chapter. All right, let's put the precepts together. Jeremiah 23 and 5, it says, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days, Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And this is his name, whereby he shall be called the Lord our righteousness. And this was speaking of the Messiah. So notice in this context, it says Judah and Israel shall be saved. Why does Judah and Israel need to be saved? Because remember, we broke the covenant. Okay. And moreover, we are suffering in these chains of darkness, man. So we need salvation, right? So when you understand that, let's come back over here to Acts, the 5th chapter. All right. And we'll start at verse 29. It says, Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, We ought to obey the Most High rather than men. The Most High of our fathers raised up Yahushai, whom ye slew and hanged on a tree, right? Him have the Most High exalted with his right hand to be a prince and a savior, for to give repentance to Israel and forgiveness of sins. So there's the context being established for Matthew 1 and 21, where it says he shall save his people from their sins. Who's the ones that sin? The nation of Israel, because we was under that first covenant. Okay. Now, what is sin according to the Bible? We also have to qualify that. Let's get 1 John chapter 3. All right. Basic precepts. 1 John 3 and 4. It says, Whosoever committed sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. And who was under that law? All right. Let's go to Psalms. All right. Chapter 147, verses 19 and 20. It says, He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He have not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they, meaning those other nations, have not known them. Praise ye Yahweh. All right. So only the nation of Israel, all right, was under that law. Okay. So now when we go back to Matthew 1 and 21, all right, we've just established who is considered his people. All right, let's read it one last time. Matthew 1 and 21, and she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Yahushai, for he shall save his people from their sins. Now you understand who his people are, man. Okay. You can also get that in Galatians, the 4th chapter, but I think that pretty much nails the point home. So now let's go from there. Now that we understand, we're going to come over here to Mark, the 7th chapter. All right. To go a little bit deeper to find out. All right. Or to prove, for that matter, that this Syrophoenician woman indeed was an Israelite. So we're going to pick up here in Mark, the 7th chapter, in the 24th verse. And it reads, And from thence he arose, all right, and went into the borders of Tyre and Zidon, and entered into a house, and would have no man know it, but could not be hid. For a certain woman whose daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him, and came and fell at his feet. All right. Because obviously the works and the miracles that he was doing, it was pretty hard to hide the fame that followed him. Okay. Verse 26. The woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation, and she besought him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter. So now we have to pick out these words, because in Matthew, the 15th chapter, it called her a woman of Canaan. And basically that was going into where she was residing. But notice in this chapter, in Mark, the 7th chapter, it calls her a Greek, a Syrophoenician, and that's key. Now, when you go into the word Greek real quick. All right.
Strong's G 1674. Hellenis.
All right. Now, in the outline of biblical usage, it says a Greek woman, or Greek women, Salakia, a Gentile women, not a Jewess. Now, in the Strong's definition, it goes on to say a Grecian, i.e. non-Jewish woman, Greek. All right. Now, this is very important, because when you jump to the New Testament, all right, it's very important to go into the translations of different words. All right. Now, notice it says in the KJV translate Strong's G 1674 in the following manner, Greek 2 times. All right. And then it gives you the precept. So in this manner, in Mark 7 and 26, it's speaking of this particular Syrophoenician woman who was called the Greek. But then also in Acts 17 and 12, it says, Therefore many of them believe also of honorable women, which were Greeks, and of men, not a few. All right. Now, when you understand that Yahushua only came from the nation of Israel, you have to also understand Apostle Paul's office, because he primarily was set up to speak to those Israelite foreigners, all right, who were keeping the Greek customs, and they were not keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. All right. Now, to go a little bit deeper into this so that you can have a proper understanding, let's go to the root etymology of Hellenist, all right, which goes back to the word Hellene or Helen, right? Now, it says here in the outline of biblical usage, a Greek either by nationality, whether a native of the mainland or of the Greek islands or colonies. It says in a wider sense, the name embraces all nations, not Jews, that made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own. The primary reference is to a difference of religion and worship. And this is very key. Okay. So Strong's definition also says a Hellen Grecian or inhabitant of Hellas, by extension, a Greek speaking person, especially a non-Jew, right? Now, don't get caught. Now, when you go into the blue letter, it can be a little tricky. And this is the reason why, all right, you have to be taught where to actually look and to go in and search up the history. So that's what we're going to do right now to bring a little bit more to allow for this to really hit home. Now, notice when you come back up here and you go to the KJV translate Strong's G 1672 in the following manner, we're going to click on Greek, right? Because in this context, based off the definition, the word Greek is only mentioned in the New Testament 20 times, right? Now, if I click on it, it's going to take me to a set of precepts. All right. Now, the first precept at the top, John 12:20, it says, and there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. This is key. All right. Now, you have to ask yourself, if they were truly heathens, are heathens allowed to come up in the temple and worship? The answer to that is no. So how were the Greeks that were among them able to come up to worship them at the feast? Because these Greeks that it was speaking of, all right, were actually Israelite foreigners. Okay. They were just keeping the Greek customs. You know, they were speaking the Greek language, so much and so forth. Now, let's come over here because I got a little commentary, all right, dealing with all of this. You know, I might just start here where it says New Testament. All right. Now, this is in the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. All right. And I thought that this was pretty key so you can understand the context and the revision of certain words. So, you know what? I might just drop down just to get to the point a little bit here. Yeah, we'll start here. It says the various readings of the manuscripts and hence the difference between the King James Version and the Revised Version, British and American, and First Corinthians 1:23 well illustrate this. There is consequently much confusion, which is quite impossible with our limited knowledge of the facts in particular cases to clear up. In general, it will seem probable that were Greeks are comprehensively contrasted with Jews. The reference is to Gentiles, and then it gives you the precepts, right? It says Gentiles representing ethnicin, all right, or ethnos. Now it says in Mark 7:26, the woman of Tyre called a Greek, all right, the Revised Version margin, or Gentile, because depending on which translation you read it, it'll either say Greek or Gentile. A Syrophoenician was clearly not of Hellenic descent. You see, and that's key. And why is that important? Because ultimately they are telling you that although she is called a Greek Syrophoenician, all right, basically the reason why she would have been called the Greek is because remember, when you go into the history, a lot of the Jews were Hellenized during the time of Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes. All right. And so you had a lot of Israelites during that time under his rule that were forced to keep after the Greek customs. All right. So to back that up, let's open up this. All right. And this is very key because we have a lot of newcomers that are coming into the faith and they may not know of this history. So let's go to there here, Salakia, First Maccabees 1. and 11. All right, we're just going to get some history, all right, from the Apocrypha, because this is very key to understand um, all of this. So it says here at verse 11, and let me change this to modern English so you can get a better understanding when reading it. Okay, first Maccabees chapter 1, verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So you had wicked Israelites back then doing around the time of the Greek Empire that instead of suffering, all right, for righteous sake, okay, they decided to, uplift their burden by just joining themselves unto the heathen. Verse 12. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so froward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, all right, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have dominion over the two realms. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We're going to drop down for time's sake. We're going to start at verse 41. It says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. All right. Now, this is evident proof that Antiochus back then, he tried to, bring in a new world order. Okay. Much like what they're trying to do today in this time. All right. Everybody should be one government, one people, one religion, so forth and so on. Right. Verse 42. And everyone shall leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath. Right? Goes on to say, for the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they shall follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and the festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh, which is pork, and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever will not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. All right. So it goes on. Let's see here. In the self same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. Then many of the people were gathered unto him, to wit, everyone that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for secure. Because it was a huge burden on them, man. Imagine that, being put in a position where you had overseers coming over, making sure that you're doing what the king commanded, and if not, you will be put to death. All right. And we're coming to that time right now, because there is no new thing under the sun. What happened then is going to happen again today, but on a much greater scale. All right. That's why the scripture says it's going to be a time of trouble, unlike any other time on the face of the earth. Right now, the point of the matter over all of this is, going into the history, you had a lot of Israelites that were forced to leave off from their heritage, going into the law, statutes, and commandments, and they were forced to take on the customs of the heathens. So much so, the actual Greek language, the Greek customs, all right, worshiping of idols, all right. You can talk about going to the celebrating the Bacchus, all right, wearing the ivy leaf and all of that, right? So now that we got that understanding, okay, let's come back over here. All right. And we left off going into that word Helen. Now, back at the word Helen, all right, We looked up Greek, right? Now they also have here Gentile, because when you go into Greek and Gentile, both words are synonymous, having the same meaning. All right. So, and that's the importance of looking up your words. Now, when we click on Gentile, okay, once again, gives you precepts pertaining to this word in the correct context. That is, we have the first precept at the top, John 7:35. So it says, then said the Jews among themselves, all right, which were the ones that kept the circumcision, right? They kept the law. Whither will he go? And they're speaking of Yahweh Shai here in this context, that we should not find him. Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? Now, this is key, because they asked, is he going to go to the dispersed, this group of people that are known as the dispersed, but also they are called Gentiles? Now, when we look up the word dispersed, all right,
Strong's G1290. Diaspora. Diaspora.
okay. Now, it says here, outline of biblical usage, a scattering, dispersion of Israelites dispersed among foreign nations, of the Christians scattered abroad among the Gentiles. And really, is speaking about Israelites, because the first Christians, they come from Antioch, when you get Acts the 11th chapter, and I believe around the 26th verse. So really, the true Christians are the Israelites. Now, notice here in the Strong's definition, it says diaspora, dispersion, i.e., specially and concretely the converted Israelite resident in Gentile countries which are scattered abroad. You see? And so these Israelites that were scattered amongst the heathens, all right, you have to understand, when you are scattered amongst a nation of people, and you start to be brought up within their customs, you start to take after their mannerisms, so much and so forth, right? And so essentially, this is what happened during the time, because this was the dispensation, going back to Acts the 15th chapter, where you had certain men that came down from Judea teaching, saying, except you be circumcised, you cannot be saved. Now, they didn't say anything wrong, but the issue there in Acts the 15th chapter, as I stated many times in other videos, is the fact that they were forcing it on these Israelites that were trying to come back to the faith. Okay. So now that we got this understanding here, let's go back and read it again so you can put it all together. And you know what? Let's pick out some different translations here. NLT. It says, the Israelite leaders were puzzled by this statement. Where is he planning to go? They asked, is he thinking of leaving the country and going to the Jews in other lands? Maybe he will even teach the Greeks, right? That's one. NIV says, the Jews said to one another, where does this man intend to go that we cannot find him? Will he go where our people live, scattered among the Greeks, and teach the Greeks? You see, notice they said, will he go where our people, okay, other Israelites is what they're saying, and teach those Israelites who are called Greeks? Okay, it's very important. So now that we kind of got that understanding, right, let's come back to Mark chapter 7, and let's further go into this, right? So we left off at Mark 7:26. So let's read it one more time. The woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation, and she besought him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter. So clearly, this woman was not a Hellenic descent, but rather she would have been brought up in the customs, and her language would have been, Greek. All right. Now, moving on, it says, verse 27, but Yahushua said unto her, let the children first be filled, for it is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it unto dogs. So now we have to break this down. Now you have to ask yourself, who are the children, okay, within this context? Well, when you look up the word children in the Greek,
Strong's G 5043. Technon. Technon.
All right. It says here, offspring, children, children, a male child, a son. But metaphor, in a metaphor, it says the name transferred to that intimate and reciprocal relationship formed between men by the bonds of love, friendship, trust, just as between parents and children. An affectionate address such as patrons, helpers, teachers, and the like employee, my child. In the NT, which is New Testament, pupils and disciples are called children of their teachers because the latter, by their instruction, nourish the minds of their pupils and mold their characters. Children of the Most High in the Old Testament of the people of Israel. There's the context, as especially dear to the Most High. In the NT, in Paul's writings, all who are led by the Spirit of the Most High and thus closely related to the Most High. And that's really what it is. Now, when Yahweh Shai told her that let the children first be filled, for it is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it unto dogs. Essentially, what he was saying was, because you got to understand, let's get a precept. All right. And I think it's Matthew 10. I think there's one in Matthew 10. Yeah, Matthew 10 and 5. These 12 Yahushua sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Okay. And as ye go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. Now, you got to understand, the prophecy stated that, let's come over here, Zechariah 12 and 7, it says, Yahweh also shall save the tents of Judah first. All right, because Judah was the head tribe, and Judah consists of the southern kingdom with Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Right. So they had to be saved first, meaning they had to be risen up first. Now, when you understand secular history, during the time when the Messiah was actually on the scene, all right, he was under the Roman Empire. So you will have to ask yourself, what kingdom was around that time under the ancient Roman Empire rule? It was the Southern Kingdom. Now, you did have little remnants of the Northern Kingdom with the Southern Kingdom, and the proof of that is when you go into Luke, the 2nd chapter, which let me prove that, because you'll have somebody say that ain't what it's talking about. Yeah, okay. Let's get Luke chapter 2, because you had a woman. Let's see. Right. Luke 2 and 36, it says, and there was one Anna, a prophetess, the daughter of Phanuel of the tribe of Asher. She was of a great age and had lived with her husband 7 years from her virginity. So that's just proof that you did have remnants of the Northern Kingdom around the Southern Kingdom. But for the majority, the bulk of the Northern Kingdom was already in the Western Hemisphere during this time. Okay. So the sole focus, coming back over here to Zechariah 12 and 7, was that the tents of Judah, the southern kingdom, had to be risen first. It says that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. Because once you raise up Judah first, all right, then the other tribes, all right, they'll lean on to the head tribe. Okay, that's the way that it had to go down. So when Yahweh Shai came, when he came on the scene, all right, he went after, all right, his own people, because he was from the tribe of Judah. Okay, he was raising up, all right, the tents of Judah, that southern kingdom. Because during this time, when you come back to Mark, the 7th chapter, all right, it wasn't time for the it wasn't time for the Gentile Israelites who were in the Gentile state of mind. That is, it wasn't their time to be lifted up, to be raised back up. The sole focus point was really on the Jews, the circumcision. Okay. So the children of thy bread in this context is speaking of those who were meant to get it first, which is really the circumcision, starting with the tents of Judah. Okay. And when you go into bread, that's going into this, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures. It says, and to cast it unto dogs. Now, dogs, okay, when you really go into it, all right, anybody who was outside of this knowledge, was considered really a dog, right? For instance, Yahweh Shah said, let's get when he was speaking about, those Pharisees and scribes, this is Matthew 7:6. It says, give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you. Right. Let's also go from there. Philippians 3:2. It says, beware of dogs, beware of evil workers, beware of the concision. All right. And also, let's get one more in Revelation, the 22nd chapter. Starting at the 14th verse, it says, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. For without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. Okay. Now you got to understand, let's get a precept here, because the scriptures in the Apocrypha also tells you that a shameless woman is counted as a dog. And that's why Yahweh Shah rebuked her, right? Even though she still was an Israelite. This is Sirach chapter 26 and verse 25. It says, a shameless woman shall be counted as a dog, but she that is shamefaced will fear the Lord. Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Okay. So a shameless woman. Okay. And what does it mean to be shameless? Let's look up. Let's go to Etamon online real quick. Let's type in shameless. Let's see what comes up. So shameless, it says Middle English, shameless from Old English, scandalous, lacking a sense of decency. All right. Impudent, bold, and immodest. All right. Now, remember, the scriptures speak about our women, how they have to be modest, in modest apparel, right? Salakia. So that's what Yahweh Shah was referring to that Syrophoenician woman. All right. She was considered a shameless woman, hence why he called her a dog. All right. So coming back over here to Mark, the 7th chapter, verse 28 says, and she answered and said unto him, yes, Lord, yet the dogs under the table eat of the children's crumbs. And he said unto her, for this saying, go thy way, the devil is gone out of thy daughter. Now, why did he do that? Because it was her faith. Okay. It was her faith. And we understand that Yahweh Shah came for the nation of Israel. It was just that he had to raise the tents of Judah first before going to the Israelite foreigners who were called Gentiles. All right. Another example of this. Let's deal with the soldier, because the soldier too was also an Israelite. All right. That centurion. See if I can find it. Yep. Matthew 8 and 10. This is in the NLT. Let's go. Let's start up a few verses. The 5th chapter. The 5th verse, Matthew 8 and 5. When Yahweh Shah returned to Capernaum, a Roman officer came and pleaded with him. Lord, my young servant lies in bed, paralyzed and in terrible pain. Yahweh Shah said, I will come and heal him. But the officer said, Master, I am not worthy to have you come into my home. Just say the word from where you are, and my servant will be healed. I know this because I am under authority of my superior officers, and I have authority over my soldiers. I only need to say, go, and they go, or come, and they come. And if I say to my slaves, do this, they do it. When Yahweh Shah heard this, he was amazed. Turning to those who were following him, he said, I tell you the truth. I haven't seen faith like this in all Israel, showing you that Roman officer, he was an Israelite. Because Yahweh Shah wasn't just going to heal no heathen. He didn't come for the heathen nations. You honestly think that Roman soldier was an Edomite and he was just going, okay, I haven't seen faith, so yeah, I'm going. No, that soldier was an Israelite, and the man who he asked Yahweh Shah to heal, that he was an Israelite. You see? So that's what it is, man. I just wanted to make that point. It says here, verse 11, and I tell you this, that many Gentiles will come from all over the world, from east and west, and sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob at the feast in the kingdom of heaven. And he's speaking about the Israelite foreigners that we'll call Gentiles. Okay, it says, but many Israelites, those for whom the kingdom was prepared, will be thrown into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of the teeth, because they didn't believe. Because remember, let's go to Deuteronomy. All right, this all started with Moses. Okay, Deuteronomy 32 and around the, let me see, 32. Let me put this in the KJV real quick. Salakia. Deuteronomy chapter 32. And let me see. 16. Actually, no. Around the 20th. Yeah. Deuteronomy 32 and 20. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be, for they are a very froward generation, children in whom is no faith. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not a power. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. Okay, and who is that foolish nation? When you go to Romans chapters 9, 10, and 11. Let's see here. You can start. Let's go to chapter 10 real quick. Romans 10 and right around here. We'll start at verse 18. Romans 10 and 18. But I say, have they not heard? Yes, verily their sound went into all the earth, and their words unto the ends of the world. But I say, did not Israel know? First Moses said, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you. That's why they got upset when you go to Acts, the 3rd chapter. I think it's Acts 3, or actually, no, Acts 13. That's why Paul said what he said here in this chapter. Let me see. Yep, Paul turns to the Gentiles. It says, verse 46, then Paul and Barnabas waxed bold and said, it was necessary that the word of the Most High shall first have been spoken unto you. Going back to what? Zechariah 12 and 7. The tents of Judah had to be risen first, right? It says, but seeing ye put it from you and judge yourselves unworthy of everlasting life, lo, we turn to the Gentiles. And he was speaking of the Israelite foreigners, okay? That foolish nation. It says, for so hath the Lord commanded us, saying, I have set thee to be a light of the Gentiles, that thou shouldest be for salvation unto the ends of the earth. So now you have to qualify this part. What does it mean to be the light to the Gentiles? Let's go to the 26th chapter. Okay. And now you're going to see who those Gentiles were that he was speaking of, which ultimately proves that that Greek Syrophoenician, although she was known as a Greek or a Gentile, she would have been an Israelite. Now, this is Acts 26, and I'm going to start at verse 14. It says, and when we were all fallen to the earth, this is Paul speaking to King Agrippa, I heard a voice speaking unto me and saying in the Hebrew tongue, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. And I said, who art thou, Lord? And he said, I am Yahushai, whom thou persecutest. But rise and stand upon thy feet, for I have appeared unto thee for this purpose, to make thee a minister and a witness both of these things which thou hast seen, and of those things in which I will appear unto thee, delivering thee from the people and from the Gentiles, unto whom now I send thee, to do what? To open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light, and from the power of Satan unto the Most High, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and inheritance among them which are sanctified by faith that is in me. Okay, that's what he was set up to do. Because remember, Peter, he had control over the circumcision, but Paul strictly had control over those Israelites that were called Gentiles. Okay, that wasn't circumcised, that wasn't keeping the customs, all right, of the law, statutes, and commandments. But the key part here is those Gentiles that had to be brought back to the light, they may receive forgiveness of sins. So what does it mean to receive forgiveness of sins? That goes into the law, because sin is the transgression of the law. So clearly, if we understand that the law was given to the Israelites, then the Gentiles in this context is speaking of those Israelite foreigners that we'll call Gentiles. Because how the hell you going to receive forgiveness for something that you was never once a part of? Make it make sense. You know? So let me see here. I think that's pretty much it on that. Right. All right. So now to close this out. All right. Let's go through it quickly one more time. All right. Mark 7:24. And from thence he arose and went into the borders of Tyre and Sidon. All right. And entered into a house and would have no man know it, but he could not be hid. For a certain woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him and came and fell at his feet. And the woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation, and she besought him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter. All right. Meaning, in other words, she was a woman not of a Greek heritage, but she spoke the language. All right. She may have well as kept some of the customs, but really she was an Israelite. All right. It goes on to say, Salakia, verse 27, but Yahushua said unto her, let the children first be filled, for it is not meet to take the children's bread. All right. Because the tents of Judah really had to be, risen first. It wasn't the time for the other Israelites, the foreigners, the ones who was in a Gentile state of mind. It wasn't their time to be risen up and to cast it unto dogs. All right. And she answered and said unto him, yes, master, yet the dogs under the table eat of the children's crumbs. And he said unto her, for this saying, go thy way, the devil is gone out of thy daughter. And when she was come to her house, she found the devil gone out and her daughter laid upon the bed. All right. In other words, her daughter was healed because she showed great faith. No, ain't no heathen is going to have faith like that, man. All right. And another question is, would a heathen actually come out and know that he was the son of the Most High? Like it tells you, let's go back here in Matthew, the 15th chapter. Okay. When she said, verse 22, and behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, have mercy on me, O master, thou son of David. Ask yourself this question. Would a heathen actually know that Yahushua was the son of David? That's a very good question. Would an actual heathen who saw Yahushua knew that he was the son of David? All right. And that's where I have to do another lesson going into the woman by the well, the Samaritan woman. All right. But as I stated, we'll cover that in a different topic. So, I pray that, this was edifying and that you got some clarification dealing with the Syrophoenician woman as well. And another thing I want to point out really quickly before I close out, let's come back here to the Apocrypha and let's get what's that, second Esdras, the first chapter, because it was even told to Esdras that you was going to have these people that was going to come back and they was going to believe through the Spirit. All right. Which is a representation of what happened to that Greek woman, because she had heard the fame of Yahushua and she believed, So this is first Esdras or second Esdras chapter 1. And I'm going to start verse 32. It says, I sent unto you my servants, the prophets, whom ye have taken and slain and torn their bodies in pieces, whose blood I will require of your hands, saith Yahweh. Thus saith the Almighty power, Yahweh, your house is desolate. I will cast you out as the wind doth stubble, and your children shall not be fruitful, for they have despised my commandment and done the thing that is evil before me. And your houses will I give to a people that shall come. Who is this people that shall come? He's speaking of those Israelite foreigners. Okay, when you go deeply into it, it says, which not having heard of me yet shall believe me, to whom I have showed no signs, yet they shall do that I have commanded them. And you see that happening on a grander stage. Ever since the apostles came on YouTube around 2007, this truth has gone out across the four corners of the earth, so much so that the Israelites that are scattered, okay, in other countries outside of America, what happened when they heard the word, although they haven't seen anything, right? They believe through faith. It says, verse 36, they have seen no prophets, yet they shall call their sins to remembrance and acknowledge them. Right now, let's hold that. Okay. And let's come over here and let's go to Baruch chapter 2, showing you that you got to put the precepts together. Baruch 2 and 30. Baruch 2 and 30. It says, for I knew that they will not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves. Obviously, this is speaking of the children of Israel, and shall know that I am Yahweh their power, for I will give them a heart and ears to hear, and they shall praise me in the land of their captivity and think upon my name, and return from their stiff neck and from their wicked deeds, for they shall remember the way of their fathers, which sinned before the Lord. Now, come back to Second Esdras. So basically, he's saying, let's read verse 36 again. They have seen no prophets, yet they shall call their sins to remembrance and acknowledge them. And I take to witness the grace of the people to come, whose little ones rejoice in gladness. And though they have not seen me with bodily eyes, yet in spirit they believe the thing that I say. You see that? And so we can conclude that, coming back here to Mark the 7th chapter, when this woman who was an Israelite, when she heard the fame of Yahushua, she believed. So much so that she came to him, begging him to cast out the unclean spirit away from her daughter. So yeah, that's pretty much it on this. There's really nothing else that I wanted to go into. And hopefully I was able to clear up that confusion based off this individual's comment pertaining to the Canaanite woman. And as I stated before, if the spirit permits me, I'll go into the breakdown of the Samaritan woman at another time. All right, Lord's will. So with that, I'm going to close out, giving all praise, glory, and honor be to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakaha Kodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect, the tabernacle of David. Once again, I am your brother Matazabath, and hopefully this was an edifying lesson, and I hope that you now have full understanding of the breakdown to the Syrophoenician woman. So with that, shalom.